I swear to God, if you guys get married or you have kids in your epilogue, get the fuck out of here. I think the love triangle in here was just so stupid, was cheating on her with her stepsister. 4.5 stars, a perfect romance, I would say. I think Emily Henry's books feel like 2000s rom-coms, and once you love a character so much, it doesn't really matter how boring the book is, but this looks so dumb, but it's practical because I hate hearing this little thing. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is not the pyramid wrap up, but we are doing a pyramid. Here it is. I didn't cover anything because I don't care. I haven't done a monthly wrap up, pyramid form or any form whatsoever since February, and I've read a lot of books since then. I think in March I read around 15 books, and that's the most books I read in a month this year. So March was crazy. Didn't get to tell you because I also had a crazy March, and then I had a crazy April, and then I graduated in May, and now it's the end of May, and I can't do a 30 book pyramid wrap up. So I did a pyramid of my favorite books of this year so far. These books are all books that I've read this year. So from January to the end of May, I have 20 or so books here that I've loved, and I wanted to share them with you guys because I haven't done monthly wrap-ups, and I've read some books, but then you've also sometimes heard of these books already, so we're just gonna go a little quick. I'm not gonna give you like the most in-depth summary or like synopsis of those books because I honestly don't want to, but we're here to talk about these books. So we'll start from the bottom up, and I'm pretty sure everything goes this way, but so hello? What am I thinking? I have some honorable mentions. A lot of these are honorable mentions already. I also had 2 more books that I couldn't fit on the pyramid or else it looked really stupid. These didn't make it onto the wall because the wall would look unsymmetrical. So I have Heartless Hunter and Rebel Witch by Kristen Cicerelli. This is a YA fantasy. The first one, Heartless Hunter, or the Crimson Moth in some countries. This is part of the Crimson Moth duology, so that's why it's called that. In America, it's called Heartless Hunter. Don't get it twisted, but it's the same book as Crimson Moth. Yeah. Confusing, I know. I think Heartless Hunter came out last year. The second book came out, I think, February of this year, and I read them in March. I remember that. I read Heartless Hunter in my 24-hour readathon, and it just reminds me of what everything YA fantasy should be. It's just YA fantasy to its core, so I loved it. It hit the marks, it hit what I wanted it to give, and it didn't stray from the pattern, it didn't stray from anything. It wasn't like super duper original, it wasn't like insanely crazy in its concept. So basically, our main character, Rune, I think, she is a witch, and in her like area, witches aren't allowed to live, and so there are people hunting witches, and so those are the witch hunters, and they're from the Republic that overtook the reign and monarchy of the witch sisters. Rune is the Crimson Moth, and so she just breaks witches out of captivity to save them from not being like executed and stuff like that. She gets into like this situationship, I guess, because she tries to flirt with one of the witch hunters. I think his name is Gideon. He tried to flirt with her because he thinks she's a Crimson Moth, and she wants to lead him off of her scent and to say that she's not the Crimson Moth, and so she plays like this really ditzy like socialite person. And so yeah, there's that. It's just like enemies to lovers. I just think like the whole concept of it is sometimes like a very one-dimensional, because it's just like, you're a witch and then I'm a witch hunter, I have to kill you, and then like they're just so stuck in their ways. It's just like, ugh, I don't really want to read it, but it's YA fantasy. It's YA fantasy, you can't really harp on it too much. So that's that. Down here, I have Between Friends and Lovers by Sherilyn. I'm so sorry. I'll put the author name and the title and everything like that. It's a contemporary romance, a bit of a love triangle, and by a bit of the love triangle, you really only care about one main love interest, and so the other one is literally non-existent. He's the worst. I gave it 3.75. I would realistically lower it down to 3.5, and it's in the lower section of my honorable mentions, and so I do really recommend it. 4 stars is I really liked it. 3 stars and above is like, I enjoyed this, and then 3.5 is where like, I'm like, oh, this is a really good book. I just couldn't give it more because it didn't really give me anything. So our main character is Josephine. She's a doctor. I think she does like sexual like education type of things on TikTok, and she's like a social media doctor basically, like Dr. Mike type of beat. So she does that. The main love interest is Mal. Loved Mal. He's a writer, and so his book is low-key popping off, and so he is in the works to get a movie deal by an up-and-coming like, production company. Like the owner of the production company is like a really rich woman, and that rich woman has a son. Josephine is best friends with that son. That guy's name is Ezra. He's an actor, and he's just a party guy, so he's just like sleeping with girls left, right, and center. Joe's in love with him, and he doesn't really see it coming. He gets a girlfriend. His girlfriend and Joe don't have the best history because she was bullied by that girlfriend, and so it's insane. And so she kind of like cuts off Ezra, and then she welcomes new people into her life, and so that's where Malcolm comes in. And I really enjoyed it. I think it was really good. I think the love triangle in here was just so stupid because how could you want Ezra? How could you want Ezra when Malcolm is such a tall writer, cute, quirky, loyal? Oh my god, he's just the best. So Malcolm, I loved Malcolm, and I really enjoyed watching Joe kind of like come into her own because she doesn't have a good home life. In this found family, she low-key gets taken advantage of a lot of the time by Ezra and his family, and I liked having her explore getting away from that and coming into her own with her job, all of her passions and stuff like that, and finding a guy that really likes her. So love that. Next is Play Along by Liz Tomforde. I think it's Liz Tomforde. It's tomforde. Okay. Last year, I think around June or July, I read the second book in the Windy City series. I think it's The Right Move because everyone told other people and I just followed them. Everyone said that the first book, Mile High, was not the best. And the guy gave them the ick. And by the ick, I mean he was like low-key misogynistic. And then he kind of like changed the character development type of beat. But he just said some like out of whack things. And I was like, okay, don't really care for that. I don't really want to read that. That main character, Stevie and some other guy. I love the found family in here. And the fact that I don't know his name. Z. I think it's Zachary. Yeah, Z. Okay, Xander's. That's their book. So I skipped that book. And then the second book, which is Ryan Shea and Indy's book. Xander's is a, what's it called? Hockey player, like NHL, that's it. NHL in Chicago. Stevie is a flight attendant for like the team basically. And so Stevie has a brother, Ryan Shea. He is a NBA. He's an NBA player, so he does basketball. And Indy is Stevie's best friend, but she goes to live with Ryan. You guys don't really care. Yeah, that book, I gave it 2.5 stars. And then I tried to read Caught Up, which is the third book, which is Kai and Miller's book. And so Kai is he's baseball. NBA. No. NBA. Okay. Yeah, NBA. MLB. He's an MLB player, so he's Major League Baseball, and so he also plays in Chicago. But then he is also a single dad because knocked up this girl. The girl left the son on his doorstep and was like, "Gotta skedaddle." So Kai is a like 33-year-old single dad. He's kind of like fallen out of love with baseball, and so that's the third book. And I remember trying to read that right after I read The Right Move, which is book 2. So we're going full circle. I tried to read Caught Up last year, and it didn't happen because I was just like so annoyed. It just kept read who the character is, and so it was like, my name is Kai, I am a single father and I play for the blah 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 team in Chicago, and I'm a single dad, blah blah blah, and it just kept every new chapter of his was that introduction. I was like, okay, I'm over this is cringe, this is bad, I don't want it. I just hate epilogues. I love an epilogue, but I hate an epilogue because I swear to God, if you guys get married or you have kids in your epilogue, get the fuck out of here. So there's that. I'm so anti-marriage. I'm anti-marriage a lot of the time. And then on a whim, I picked up Caught Up again. So this is book 3 still. I read Kai's book and I was like, okay, whatever. And then Kai has a brother, Isaiah, and he's also on the same MLB team. And his name is Isaiah Rhodes. And so now we get to play along. Isaiah and Kennedy are the main characters. And Kennedy she's a team doctor. She has a really misogynistic boss. And so everyone can see that Kennedy's super capable, and she came to this like job like to be the physical therapist or like doctor for the MLB team, and she was super overqualified. And then once the person that was hiring her saw that she was a woman, he was like, you're gonna be like an assistant basically. She rocks up to the team, and you already see the dynamic between Isaiah and Kennedy in Caught Up, the third book, but we get more of like a backstory. And so she comes to the team, their meet cute happens, and then Isaiah's like a perpetual flirt, and so he's always flirting with Kennedy, but then she's also taken, so blah blah blah. She's not taken anymore. Like the engagement's off basically because her ex-fiance was cheating on her with her stepsister. The connections are insane. Yeah, I could do like a whole video on the Windy City series, and I haven't even read the whole thing. I've read everything except for book 1. Yeah, I gave Play Along 3.5 stars. I really enjoyed it. I loved Isaiah and I love Kennedy's like dynamic. She's very touch starved, and she's not like, she didn't grow up in like the most loving household, and so she like doesn't really know how to show affection and stuff like that. And so Isaiah's like super affectionate, but he also has a traumatic past because his parents died. And so Kai has always been like in charge of Isaiah until like they both went to college and everything like that, where their like baseball careers like kind of like lifted off. But Kai has always been like the rock for Isaiah. And so now that Kai is kind of retiring from baseball, he's like, I don't know what to do. I cope with everything using humor and like flirting and stuff like that. And so there's that. But he is instantly taken with Kennedy. And so once he realizes that she is not engaged, he's like going full force for Kennedy. Then they end up getting married in Vegas, and so they're married. But that's like the beginning of the book, and then we deal with the consequences after that, blah blah blah. It's really good. I loved Isaiah and I loved Kennedy and I love their little situation. Next I have Sandwich by Catherine Newman. This is a fiction book. It's really short. It's like less than 300 pages. It's such a good beach read, and it takes place on Cape Cod, and so it's following this family. Our main character Rocky, she is a mom, and so her children are like kind of grown up. One's graduated and then one's in college right now, and so they do their annual like vacation to Cape Cod, and so it kind of just like jumps back and forth of like them sharing memories about like the Cape Cod and like being an empty nester. I'm just gonna read you my review because I think it kind of sums up everything, and it's better than whatever I could do. The perfect book to read for Mother's Day. It's just a sweet little book about this mother and how every place and person around her has shaped her into the person she is, all set during an annual vacation to Cape Cod. There's this heartbreaking and mind-altering quote / short essay that I've read in the past year regarding Aging Woman by Zoe Moss. Zoe Moss is a pen name. That's not her real name. It's from It Hurts to Be Alive and Obsolete, and it's basically talking about how as women like grow older, they become obsolete. They're just seen as your mom. They're not people anymore. And so I think that like it really makes me cry every time I think about it. But yeah, like you don't really realize that your mom or like older women have had this whole entire life before you, because everyone's just so self-centered in like the way they view everything. And so like it's also like one of those things, those sayings where it's like, oh, it's also your mom's first time living. Like that's so sad. It Hurts to Be Alive and Obsolete. That short essay title sums up the entire book. It makes you think of your mother, other mothers, and previous mothers of the past. I had a great time reading it and loved getting a small glimpse into this fictional family filled with so much love. I was expecting something horrible to happen. I thought like Rocky was gonna share some news that was gonna be like mind altering to the family and like shake up every single family dynamic. It wasn't like that, and I loved it. It was so good. I gave that one 4 stars. So we're in the 4-star territory after this point. Next is Heavenly Bodies by Imani Uru. This is a romantasy, new adult, I would say. It was really good. It has like Greek gods aspect, and so our main character Alara, she is fleeing her kingdom because one of the top gods, one of the stars, has like waged war on her kingdom, killed her family, and so she goes up to a rival kingdom, which is the Kingdom of Light. Alara's from the Kingdom of Dark. Every new like country, like kingdom border is run by a different star. So the main like conflict person, Artie, he cannot get into the Kingdom of Light, and so the Kingdom of Light has the star and then like a mortal king, and so all the mortals have like powers. Basically the mortal king is like, hey Alara, like you're part of this prophecy that says you can be a star killer. You're gonna kill the star for me. You're gonna kill Artie. I'm gonna get the top gun, so I'm gonna train you with my son, who also has 3 powers because they're overpowered and stuff like that. So then it's an enemies to lovers type of beat with Enzo and Alara. I really didn't care for Enzo. I didn't really like him at all, but I liked Alara. I think Enzo is just very hot-headed and like very quick and rash to his emotions, and he doesn't really think through like his emotions properly before he reacts to it, and so it's very icky in that sense. I really enjoyed Alara. I like the world building in here. It's very easy to read. 4 stars. I have Don't You Forget About Me by Vara McFarlane. This book is very rom-com-y. It adheres to the rom-com like formula more like most out of Vara McFarlane's book. I really liked it. I think it was fun. Georgina, she's getting a lot of slack from her family. She works like, I would say, menial jobs, so like restaurant business jobs, bartenders. It's looked down upon from her family because she was such a bright student, and then she dropped out of college, and so now she's just working to survive now. And so she gets fired from one of her jobs because some guy made a bad comment and stuff like that. There's this past present timeline between Georgina and this guy named Lucas. And so Lucas is like her like high school sweetheart. They had a bad falling out and none of the details are really like set in stone by each other. Georgina's like, why did that guy leave me? Like, why did he leave? She's kind of like hung up on Lucas, but then makes a connection. She gets hired as a bartender person, and the co-owner of this bar, of the guy that didn't hire her, so the co-owner, like I said, is Lucas. He's back in town. She's like, oh my god, hey Lucas. And so, because he acted like he didn't know Georgina, and so she's like, what the hell? While I say it follows the most rom-com-y of Vara McFarlane's book, it is like very self-reflective of Georgina and the main character, so it really just like works through what she's doing and then the romance can play in. And so I really do like that about Vara McFarlane's books, and it was just a fun grand time. I loved it. Next is Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. This is Hamish's book, so this follows the 50th Hunger Games. I'm not gonna harp on it too long because I think I had like a 1-hour reading vlog, my new releases. It's my like newest video where I talked about it, but I really enjoyed it. I loved getting like the snippets of like past Hunger Games before Katniss's games and before she shakes everything up. It's fun to see how like all the seeds were already planted like 25 years before 24 years before Katniss like rocks up. Sometimes I do think that like this book was very fan servicey in the fact that it had so many cameos. That's just my opinion. That's just my opinion. I don't know what to say. We just follow Hamish's game. This game is very different because it's a quarter quell. So this is a quarter quell, and so if you don't know anything about the Hunger Games like series, every like normal Hunger Games year, every year there's a reaping with 2 children, and so 1 boy and 1 girl from each district. There are 12 districts, so 24 in total, will battle it out to the death to become the victor of the Hunger Games. Like, this is all because the 12 districts rebelled against the capital in the dark days, and so as punishment to the districts, the capital hold these games with their children. So the reaping can commence from children 12 to 18 years old. Hamish's games, the 50th game, so every 25 years there is a quarter quell, and so each quarter quell has a different twist on it. So the 50th quarter quell, instead of 1 boy and 1 girl from each district, there are 2 girls and 2 boys from each district getting reaped. So there's a total of 48 tributes. Crazy, I know. That's Hamish's game. You see how he gets reaped. You see his life in District 12 before everything like that. Sometimes I do think that the pacing of this book was very off. We got so much before the games, and then the games like were really in detail, and the games were just going on and on and on and on. Like, you got no time to breathe. That's like very literal, and like the way that like Hamish would probably live his life in the games. Like, you're just so on edge all the time. And then the aftermath of Hamish's games, which is something I really wish that was expanded on a lot more, because you got when he went, you got his aftermath of the games. Is that a spoiler? Nah. And I wish there was more. Because it literally was like 20 pages and I was like, that's it. That's all I'm getting. So there's that. I gave that one 4 stars. We're on the 2nd level. Okay, so next I have I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman. This is a dystopia, like magical realism type of book. So we follow our main character, who has no name. She is one of 40, trapped inside of a bunker, and so they have no outside communication except for these guards that bring them food and everything like that. They don't talk, they just stand still, don't even like react to them, but they're held up in this bunker and they don't know how long they've been there, they don't know how they got there, and then something happens, and so it just deals with the dystopian future of like that happening. It's just very well put together. It's really fun to read. It's really easy to read. It's very like fast paced, and I liked the like philosophicalness. And I'm not the biggest like philosophy fan, but I like philosophical like questions that our main character is like talking about, like different things of how she survives not knowing anything else, because she's the youngest out of the 40 women. The other 39 are very like, they're older, so they have life experience pre-bunker, but our main character knows no other life except for the bunker, and so that's where the title is I Who Have Never Known Men, because she's never seen a man except for the guards that don't talk to her, don't speak or anything like that. So I gave that one 4 stars. Next I have The Hunger Games. Yeah, very easy. I gave this one 4 stars. This follows Katniss's game, so this is the 74th Hunger Games. Yeah, that's all you really gotta know. This starts the original trilogy. This was published in 2008. I like the writing in the first 2. They all feel the same, but I really enjoyed the first one. It's just very nostalgic, and I just love The Hunger Games. Okay, sue me. So this is fun. This follows Katniss's games. We meet Peeta. He's the other tribute in the 74th Hunger Games, and there's kind of a love triangle between this other character named Gale. I think the pacing of this one was my favorite. Basically, out of the series, you really just get into it. Like, you get enough background and then you get put into the games. It's just very good in the fact that like the way it was paced, it's very like evenly distributed into thirds, even though every every of their books are like split into thirds because there's 3 parts, but I think this one was the best paced, I would say. There's that. 4 stars. Is James by Percival Everett. I think this was last year's Barnes & Noble Book of the Year. This is a retelling in the perspective of James, or Jim, the runaway slave in the story Huck Finn by Mark Twain. I've read Huck Finn. I really enjoyed being in the perspective of Jim. It's really cool. I think the writing was really good. It was really engaging, and it was just like a nice like story flip into what's happening in Jim's mind, because he's such a pivotal character to Huck Finn and the whole entire like story. So I loved it. So yeah, 4 stars. I don't know what else to say to you, but it was really good, and I recommend you read it. So next, I have One Day by David Nichols. I already know the story by One Day because they came out with a Netflix TV show and I watched it the year prior. So this is just like reading the book after I see the show. It's fun. I loved it. I actually tabbed a lot of it. Not tabbed. I went down and like dog-eared pages of what I really enjoyed, and I think just this book is just really good. It's really well written. You get so much more into Dexter's life in the earlier years. In the TV show, you don't really see much of Dexter's POV and how he feels towards Emma. In the book, you get a lot more into Dexter's POV in the early years of him and Emma's relationship and how they like view each other, because really honestly from the TV show it feels a little one-sided on Emma's half, but these 2 characters are just such good friends, and so they meet one night after they graduated at like a party and stuff like that, and then it just spans their life on the same day, like between like 20 years. It's a beautiful story. I think sometimes the Netflix, the TV show, since it uses the same actors like in 20 years, I know that Dexter does not look like what's his name, Leo Woodall. Is that his name? Leo. He does not look like Leo when he's 50 or 40 something. That was a little unrealistic, and so I could not picture Leo, and I was like, what do you mean? I really enjoyed it. I think the quotes in here are just beautiful, and I love the style of writing. I love how descriptive but like also lyrical it was, so loved it. 4 stars. Next is Catching Fire. Catching Fire, I gave 4.25 stars. This is my favorite book out of the Hunger Games saga, all of the Suzanne Collins books. I loved it. I love the 75th Games. This is also another Court of Quellier. I also love the Catching Fire movie the best, so I loved it. You get so much more insight in the book than in the movie, and so there's some like little nuances that are really expanded upon in like the other book. So like for example, a lot of Hamish's like past gets brought up in here, and you don't really see it elsewhere in the trilogy before the new release Sunrise on the Reaping from this year. This book just has so much lore because it just deals with so much of like the previous winners. It's not solely focused on like Katniss and getting introduced into the games, and so you get more of an insight into the previous years because it's been going on for 74 years. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I love the way information was brought up. Saying that, I think the before the games was really dragged out in this book, and the games in this book didn't feel as grand or like crazy as in the first book because you're kind of used to it. This one, my favorite book out of the Hunger Games series. So next I have My Friends by Fredrik Backman. I also gave this one 4.25 stars. So we're kind of going in like order. So we started at like 3.5s, then we're working up to 4s, and so this is my least favorite out of the 4s, and this is my favorite out of the 4s, and so now we're at 4.25. So this is my favorite out of the 4.25s. Catching Fire and My Friends by Fredrik Backman are the only books I've given 4.25 stars. From now on, it's very like set in stone. These are very distinctive ratings of like my favorite books that I've read so far. The 4 stars and below were all like honorable mentions. I've given a lot of books 4 stars, so that's just a disclaimer. 4.25 stars. I loved it. I love Fredrik Backman's writing. Sometimes the humor, it doesn't hit. You're just going, okay, like get on with the story, but I enjoy his writing. I love the way he makes characters. This one's different than all of his other standalones because it does deal really heavily with the past, and so we have our present timeline with our characters Ted and Louisa, and then in our past timeline we have Ted and his friends when they were 14. So we have Fred, Joel, Allie, and the artist. I loved Louisa and her like whole story. I just love the way that Louisa and Ted connected because Ted's like a 43-year-old man and Louisa a fresh new barely 18-year-old girl, and so she leaves foster care. She gets caught up in this famous artist's life, and so he gives her the painting that is worth millions of dollars. She's kind of like tangled in with Ted because she doesn't know what to do with it. She doesn't know how to do anything. She's been on her own for her whole life basically. Getting to like understand and see and know the backstory behind the painting is really meaningful and special to her, and so I just loved everything about it. Like I loved the way Fredrik Backman wrote it. I love the past chapters. It was really engaging. Like every other Fredrik Backman book, this deals with heavy topics, so go in with that knowledge, but it's really good. I loved it. Now we're going on to the 4.5 star. These are close to perfect to me, so we have 6 of them. First we have Babel by R.F. Kuang. This is a reread, so I'm gonna be really brief with it. Basically this follows our main character Robin. He gets the choice to stay in Canton after his parents have died and so he's an orphan basically, or he can go with this rich educated Englishman to go to Oxford and become like one of the Babel translators. He's like, okay, I'll go with you. He learns a bunch of different like languages and like translation type of beat. It spans his time getting taken from as a child, getting educated for Babel, going into Babel, and then now that he's at Babel, does he really enjoy it? Does he see the flaws in the system and how the British Empire have exploited different ethnic groups and minorities to gain this knowledge and become the British Empire? And so without their help, they would not be the British Empire. And so this is also historical fiction, fantasy, dark academia type of beat. The historical fantasy area is the fact that there are these silver bars that are powered through the act of translation. So the Babel students are powering the British Empire, and the Babel students are made up of minorities and people who have been taken advantage of by the British Empire. Their homelands are colonies of the British Empire, so they are just taking their homeland in service of the British Empire. And so they're like, do I really want to do this? And it just deals with that like whole type of thing of like, is this the right move of what we should do? Is this even just? So yeah, there's that. Next I have Hero of Ages by Brandon Sanderson. This is 4.5 stars. This is the third book in the original Mistborn trilogy. So this concludes Vin's storyline. I enjoyed it. I really liked it. I think it's way better than The Well of Ascension. I didn't really care for Well of Ascension. And I think the third book and the first book, Mistborn, are tied for my favorite. I liked it a lot. It has a better pace than the second book, I would say, and there's less like talking in meetings type of like negotiation in the plot line and more action. So I really enjoyed that part. But basically in the first book, we follow Vin. She goes around, she's in this like kind of gang type of beat, and so she gets kind of like taken advantage of. She's a 16-year-old girl. She is a ska, and so this guy named Kelsier, who is a Mistborn, he kind of like recruits Vin into his like crazy plan of trying to overthrow the Lord Ruler, which is the like king of all kings basically in this land. She just goes along with that. She finds a found family in Kelsier and his crew. It just follows Vin's storyline. And so this book is the last book and it concludes Vin's storyline. It's really high stakes. It didn't really feel high stakes, but then it really is high stakes. But I enjoyed it. A great end to Vin's story. So next we have Promise Me Sunshine by Cara Bastone. I gave one of Cara Bastone's Ready or Not. I gave that one 2.5 stars. And so I really didn't have the best expectations going into Promise Me Sunshine. But one person, she gave like Happy Place 5 stars. And that's like my only criteria. Happy Place and Had and a Love Story 5 stars. And so she gave Promise Me Sunshine kind of 5 stars. It kind of meshes those two books kind of. I don't know. I think I'm just pulling that out of my ass, but I love both of those books. So I was like, okay, I'll read this. Even though I didn't have the best, like, it's right here. I didn't have the best, like, track record with Cara Bastone. I really enjoyed this one. It's in the 4.5 star category. So yeah, I loved it. It's very sweet. I loved our main characters. Our main character, Lenny, she is grieving the loss of her best friend. And so she's a nanny. And so she gets kind of like temporary nanny work for rich single mom in New York. And I love the New York setting in this book. She doesn't want like full-time nanny work because she's still like literally being a walking ghost because her best friend died, and that Lenny is her lifeline, like she's her soulmate. And so after her friend dies, she's like, I don't know what to do anymore. In this temporary nanny work, Ainsley is the girl. And so her uncle Miles, he is kind of like stepping into Ainsley's life. Miles and Ainsley's mom, Reese, have come into contact recently, and so Miles wants to step up and be a good uncle to Ainsley, but he doesn't really know how to connect to Ainsley. Lenny she's really good at connecting with kids because she's a nanny, and so they kind of spark up this idea that like Miles can kind of help Lenny get her spark back, and in turn she can teach him how to be a good uncle and how to be a funkle to Ainsley and just like really be involved in Reese's life, because he also went through grief. His mother died, and so he knows how dark it is, and so he wants to help Lenny out of that situation and also the best uncle he can be to Ainsley. I really enjoyed Miles. He was so calm, collected, and sensitive and emotional to Lenny and all of her experiences and how everything is really fresh in her mind and everything like that. And so I really enjoyed his approach to everything. I loved him. I loved Lenny. I loved seeing the growth that Lenny went through for her in this situation, and I just loved it. 4.5 stars. A perfect romance, I would say. Next, I have Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. I gave this one 4.5 stars. I loved the Margaret plotline. I think a lot of people are like, why did this get so much book time? But I really enjoyed it. I think it was just so fun. It was very drama filled, and I was like, yeah, if you're not a perpetual Twitter user and you don't care about like celebrities' lives like I do, then I can see why you didn't like this, but I'm a perpetual Twitter user, and I will just like I will stalk Pop Crave, and it will just like always be on my homepage, and I'll be like, oh, that's crazy, this is happening in this person's life. Our main character, Alice, she's a writer, and so she kind of tracks down this fading socialite. So this woman is 80 years old. She's been out of the limelight for like 30 plus years. No one really knows what happened to her, why she left the spotlight, and her family is really big in like media, and so her family literally basically made clickbait, basically taglines and headlines for newspapers, and so they own like the newspaper companies, basically the Ives. And so Margaret is our fading socialite, and she was married to this like an Elvis type of guy, but like better than Elvis because he was nice. She was married to him, and then he died, and so after that she kind of like fell off the face of the earth. Alice has always loved the Ives family because her dad loved it, and so she goes exploring to find out what happened to Margaret Ives specifically, because she's the last living Ives. She goes out to find and like scoop up the story because she wants to write Margaret's biography before she's dead and gone, before all this information's gone for like ever. She finds her. She's in this coastal town in Georgia, a small little coastal town, and she goes to Georgia and like kind of like interviews to be the biographer. Next thing she knows, there's also another writer, a Pulitzer Prize biographer, Hayden, and he is vying for the spot to write Margaret's story as well. And so she's like, holy shit, like we're battling it out. So they have a 1 month trial of like interviewing Margaret and like coming up with like their rough outlines of the books and how they want to approach the biography, and then she'll choose who she wants to write her biography. They're literally stranded on a small town. Hayden and Alice start to have feelings for each other. They start connecting on a deeper level, having conversations and stuff like that. And it was really good. I think the romance in here moved a little quickly because it had to make room for Margaret's story, but other than that, I really enjoyed it. I love Emily Henry's writing. I think it's really fun. It's really witty, very rom-com-y, and it's fun. I can't wait to see this translated to screen. I think Emily Henry's books feel like 2000s rom-coms, and so they're not like super duper like explicit, but they're also really fun, really like light and fresh and like kooky. Not like kooky, but like kooky. So I love them. Next is The Conditions of Will by Jessa Hastings. I love Jessa Hastings' writing. I love it. This is very drama filled, has some triggering topics, and so go into that knowing that. But basically our main character, Georgia, she's the youngest daughter of the Carter family, and so she is living in London because her family sent her off when she was like 16. She doesn't make contact willingly with her family, and so when she gets the call that her dad has died and she has to come home for the funeral and the reading of the will, she's like, oh shit, I gotta go home. And so she goes to Beaufort, South Carolina, which is like a coastal small town in the South. Georgia is not on good terms with her family. Her older sister, Marianne, is crazy. Like, she's like insane, and she's very narcissistic. Her older brother, Tennyson, he's just like the oldest brother. Him and Marianne have like always been like two peas in a pod, basically, and they've kind of left out Georgia and her younger brother, Oliver, out. And so Oliver is gay in this small coastal Christian town in the South. Yeah, he's never been treated like fairly by her family or anything like that. And so Georgia is really always on Oliver's side, and she holds a lot of resentment for Oliver. And Oliver is a recovering alcoholic, and so he brings his A&A sponsor to South Carolina for the reading of the will. That sponsor's name is Sam. Sam and Georgia are like the main relationship in this, but it focuses on that, but it really is about like the family drama and dynamics between Georgia and her family and how she approaches everything. So Georgia is very methodical. She's very Spencer Reid coded in the way that she analyzes people, emotions, and like everything like that. She's working on her PhD in psychology and behavioral analysis, and so there's that. She is like a human lie detector, basically, in like lamest terms in the book. Stuff happens in the will. They're trying to uncover like family secrets, and it just really follows the family drama, which is fun. So yeah, there's that. I really enjoyed it. Next and last of my 4.5 stars, I have The Flatshare by Beth O'Leary. I love this book. I don't have a physical copy, and I really need to because I love the cover of it. I love it. It's just one of the best romances I've read this year, and that's saying a lot because I do read a lot of romances, but it's my favorite. It was just so good. The premise is really insane. Our main character, Tiffy, she gets out of a really bad relationship, and so she's like, okay, I need to find somewhere to live. I can't be spending too much money, because before then she doesn't really spend money on rent because her partner was always like covering it. She's really poor. She works in this nonprofit publishing house, like a really small publishing house, and so she doesn't really get paid the most, but she finds an ad on a paper, and so it's with this guy who it's sharing a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment with this guy named Leon. And so she doesn't know this guy, but he is a care nurse, a nurse, doctor type of thing. And he only works nights. So he works all throughout the night and into the morning. And so once like 9 o'clock in the morning, when Tiffy needs to go to work, he comes home. And so they never really see each other. And so it's perfect. They just have to share the bed, share the bathroom, share the apartment, and they split mornings and nights. So basically that's all that. It's fun. Leon is in need of the cash, and so that's why he does this. I think I loved it so much because it really goes to them becoming friends first. And I'm not the biggest fans of friends to lovers. I think I like it when it's strangers to friends to lovers more than just strictly starting out with friends to lovers. I don't know why. They're starting out strangers and they become friends. And so Tiffy and Leon, as they're becoming friends, Tiffy kind of helps Leon with his like side quest mission type of thing. And I think it's really sweet. I think the dynamic, the way the relationship blossoms is really sweet. And I just love the two characters separately. Tiffy has a crazy ex in this book. So I don't know, that was insane. Yeah, I just really enjoyed it. I love the flash art. It's just really cute. We're at the two last books at the top of the pyramid, and these are the books that I gave 5 stars. So first we have A Tree Grows in Brooklyn. This is like a modern classic. I'm saying it's a modern classic. It's also, I don't know if it's a modern classic or a classic. Okay, no. Okay, this is the copyright is from Betty Smith, the author, in 1942. So this is technically a modern classic because it's after the First World War, but it's during World War II. This book was really popular in like mass market paperback. I don't know why I'm giving you the history lore of this book, but it's really popular with the soldiers, really good selling in the US soldiers. So that's why this is a modern classic, blah, blah, blah. So I really enjoyed it. A beloved American classic. This follows our main character, Francie. And so she starts out like as an 11-year-old girl, and it's just so beautiful. It really is just very slice of life of Francie's life as a girl in Brooklyn. And so it starts out slow, but I really enjoyed it. I'm going to read you my review because I don't know how to like put it into words of how I felt about it, but I loved being in Francie's head. I loved seeing her, like really seeing her, because she's very lonely, and so her mother is a hardworking mother, and so she's not really there for a lot of it. And then she has a younger brother, Neely, and then her father is also working. He's a performer, but he's always really drunk, and so you kind of see that like as it unfolds between like the family dynamic between Francie, her mother, her father, and her younger brother Neely. Francie loves books and she loves like education, so you kind of deal with that of like how that happens and how she kind of has to put everything on the back burner because of a life event that happened to kind of like provide for her family and everything like that. I just really enjoyed it, loved it. I tabbed some of it, like some of the quotes are beautiful in this. You guys don't care. I love Francie. I think she's one of my favorite main characters, and like I just loved her. She's so cute. Sometimes I work really hard for my reviews on Goodreads, so please read them. Please read them. 5 stars. I don't know how else to start this review other than this book being a breath of fresh air. Francie is such a relatable main character, reminiscent of other strong heroines who love a good story. But unlike the glamorized life of Jo March, Francie's life in Brooklyn shows the struggles many people face in 1912. This is set in 1912. Extreme poverty, public education, and life as a girl set in the 1900s. This is also set in Brooklyn. Sign me up. And then in parentheses, Steve Rogers and Bucky Barnes core. Wow. I can't believe I wrote that. I adored following along Francie's life, her interests, and her family. There's no real point to the book, and it was so fun to be in this world and really connect to Francie. I love this book, and I love Francie so much. This is definitely one of my favorite coming of age stories, and Francie's one of my favorite heroines, like I said. Read this book. It's a nice one to binge and a nice one to read slowly and really take it in. And like I said, it's not like glamorized like Jo March's poverty. Like Francie's poor. They're savoring every little bit, and so it really is that. And I understand why it was so popular amongst soldiers and stuff like that, because they're getting a little slice of home. The way that Betty Smith wrote it was very like, Francie is going on to the corner market. She wants to turn in some trash to get a penny. It's not glamorizing her poorness, but it really shows her determination because she's such a beautiful character. And I have some great quotes that I loved. Okay, sometimes she worried for fear the book would be lost in the library and she'd never be able to read it again. She had once started copying the book in a 2-cent notebook. She wanted to own a book so badly, and she thought that copying would do it. But the penciled sheets did not seem like nor smell like the library book, so she had to give it up, consoling herself with the vow that when she grew up, she would work hard, save money, and buy every single book that she liked. It was just so sweet. I love her. She wept when they gave birth to daughters, knowing that to be born a woman meant a life of humble hardship. It was a good thing that she got herself into this other school. It showed her that there were other worlds beside the one she had been born into, and that these other worlds were not unattainable. She doesn't love me as much as she loves Neely, but she needs me more than she needs him, and I guess being needed is almost as good as being loved, maybe better. I love Francie. I loved that book. I love it so much. I highly recommend you read it. Like I said, it starts out really slow, and so I wasn't like the the biggest fan of it at the beginning, but then you kind of get into it. I read some chapters via audiobook, and it was just so beautiful. I love the family. I love Francie. And so once you love a character so much, it doesn't really matter how boring the book is, but yeah, I loved it. It could be really boring to some people, but I loved it. Next, I have the last book, and my favorite book probably I read this year, which was Bert Marie Was Here by Fredrik Bachman. Hey, Fredrik Bachman, we're back. This is one of his backlist books. This is a standalone. We follow our main character, Bert Marie, and so she is going through a divorce, and so her husband is a working husband. She's always been like a stay-at-home wife, and so he had kids from a previous marriage, and so she kind of raised those kids as they left the nest. She's around 60s, 70s, 50s, probably 60s to 70s. They separate, and so she kind of needs to live life for the first time as not a married woman because she's been married to him since she was like really young. She kind of like comes into her own, becomes her own person, and so with this she goes to a temp agency. The like front desk worker assigns her to this temp job in a different town. I don't know where it's at. She goes to a small town in Sweden. This small town is really like, think of Route 66, Radiator Springs from Cars kind of deal. And so this town, people just drive through it. No one really stays in this town. And so she comes to here because she like tasked to be like the manager of like this like rec center, basically. Not manager, but like run this rec center. And so she's like really into cleaning. She's very tidy because that's all she really knows. And soccer/football is really important to the kids of this town, and there's not many kids because like I said, this town, like people just kind of leave it. This town is all they have left of each other. The found family of this town and like the way that they're so closely knit together and they know everything about each other is really special. It reminds me a lot of Beartown, and so I really enjoyed it. And so as Bert Marie kind of cements her place into this town, like you can see the way that people interact with Bert Marie and how they view her and everything like that, and just her like finding herself and finding a family basically for the first time ever basically is really special. And Bert Marie is very scared. She's always really scared, and so now that she's separated from her husband, she's living alone, and she is always terrified about the way that when she dies, since she's all alone, when she dies, no one will know. And so she's terrified of that, and she's terrified of being like obsolete basically, like that Zoe Moss quote. It's just so special, and the way that she interacts with the children of this town specifically, and like football and how everything kind of goes along together. It's really beautiful. I loved it. It's my favorite book that I read this year. It's just so cute. It really is like Beartown in the way that the whole town bands together to be like so united, and how Bert Marie was just like joined into this town. Her whole life and outlook of everything kind of switched up because of it, and just how she grew from the beginning of the book to the end of the book. I loved it. I love you, Bert Marie. I love Bert Marie. Everyone give it up for Bert Marie. That's all. So those are the 22 books that I wanted to talk about today, and these are my top books that I've read so far this year, and I hope you guys enjoyed them. I hope you guys liked hearing about these books. They aren't the most coherent thoughts or reviews, so if you guys don't care, then if you want some good reviews, go scour Goodreads or something like that, or read the book and make your own opinion. Those are my like jumbled together thoughts on these books, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I also have a list of some of the movies and TV shows that I love so far this year as well, and my ratings on those, because I'm an avid Letterboxd user. And so yeah, if you guys want a film TV show version of this like video of like me just talking about my favorite TV shows and movies of this year that I've watched this year, let me know down below. I'll do it. I'll bring the setup back. I'll bring her back. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like, comment, subscribe. I love you guys so much, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!